Alright, welcome back. So today I'm going to be looking at this cute little thing that I found. I was at a thrift store and I was actually in the toy section and I saw this thing and I was like, is that a toy? Or is it a camera? Well, I don't really know. So we're going to take a look at this thing today. So this is the Kodak Easyshare. This is the, let's see, CD24. It's part of the Kodak Easyshare lineup. I've actually done a video on another one of these a while back. The Easyshare was marketed as, kind of a low-end camera intended for, kids and teenagers right before, smartphones and their social media integration was kind of a thing, where you could essentially take your pictures on this thing, connect it to your computer, and then through their app, their software, you could transfer all your pictures to your social media. So this is one of those. But the reason why I thought this one was so interesting is just because how basic it is. It is incredibly basic. So we're going to take a look at it. Now, it has a 12 megapixel front-facing shooter. It does not have any sort of rangefinder or viewer. Basically, you have to just use the LCD screen for when you want to take a picture. Kind of rudimentary because the LCD screen is very low quality, so it's not a very good indicator of what the picture is that you're going to take. So it's going to be kind of a trial and error thing when you're going to be taking your pictures. As you can see, we don't actually have a zoom rocker up here. All we have is one shutter button. That's it. And then up the top here we have our power button. We can actually switch between photo and video. So yes, this thing can do video, but it's very bad. And then a flash button. And then here we have our zoom, so you can actually zoom in, zoom out, and zoom in. This actually offers a digital zoom. So what that means is that you can see that this is a fixed lens camera. So this lens actually cannot move at all. So this is a digital zoom, meaning that essentially it doesn't actually zoom in on anything. What it does is it basically enhances an image to the point where it will zoom in and focus on one particular point. So it's not a true zoom. Essentially what it's doing is it's just zooming in to the point where it's going to lower your resolution. Think about like if you pull up a picture on a computer and you just zoom into that picture very, very close and it becomes all distorted and pixelated. That's kind of what it is. So that's what that is. And then we have our delete button, garbage can button, our settings menu, got a D-pad and an OK button, information button just to show you kind of the firmware version on here, and then a play button for playback videos and photos, then as well as the share button, and the share button is what you will use to actually transfer your media to the software, I assume, so that you can put it on the various social media platforms. As I said in the last video, the software is out of date. I can't get it running, and the APIs are probably out of date anyway, so it probably wouldn't even work. But we're going to take a look at what this camera can offer because it's so basic. At the bottom, you have a little micro USB port to connect it to your computer or laptop or whatever. But it weighs practically nothing. Very little of this thing is metal. It's all just bright plastic. And then it's that big. It literally fits in the palm of my hand, so it's pretty cool. Powering the camera is pretty simple. I got this thing for $5, I think, at the thrift store. So it takes two AA batteries. So you just put your AA's right there. Then we have an SD card. I'm just going to be using a little 8 gig SD card that I have lying around. That should be plenty because the stuff that we're going to be getting off this camera, we're not going to be doing anything that's going to take up a lot of space, so it should be perfectly fine. There we go. Set a date and time. I'm not interested in that right now. So, as you can see through the viewfinder, it's not very good. It's very blurry, very mushy. Now, if we go through the settings are pretty basic for this thing. So we just have our megapixel size. Now, if you want to set it to a 16:9 ratio, you're limited to 9 megapixels. If you want to go use the full 12, it limits you to 4:3, which is an older aspect ratio. I'll be using that just because it's going to give some of the old-timey feel of what this is. Exposure, I recommend setting this to 0.3 plus. You can choose a bunch of different ones from 0. Yeah, I think you can go to like -2. Yeah, you can do -2 or +2. Exposure is actually going to be kind of important for this camera for reasons that I will show you much later on. Because the low light performance of this camera is awful, so being able to compensate for that is going to be important. You have your ISO speed. I just set that to auto. You have your self timer. You can do that. Actually, it's kind of cool with basic colors. You can actually do like vivid. You actually have a black and white filter, which is kind of cool. Sepia tone, which is neat. You got vivid, full, basic. I'm just going to leave it at basic for now. Got your white balance. So there's some stuff to play with here. But it is, I'm going to do sharp actually for our picture size. And then you can do your setup, which is just your settings. So there's some stuff to play around with here, but it's overall like a pretty basic package. So yeah, but as you can see, whenever you pan around, the camera is very blurry. And then watch this. I'm going to take a picture with it. All right. See how long that took? So, and then once we hit play, there's the image. And then you can see it's actually timestamped down there. And the camera thinks it's 2011. It's kind of hard to pick up on the. I have a camera pointed at a camera. I'll be uploading some of these pictures in the video towards the end, so you can go ahead and skip to the end if you want to see this. But I'm going to be showing some pretty cool demonstrations with this thing, with this camera, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a video outside and as well as inside, just to show what this thing is capable of. But it's pretty bad. It's probably the cheapest, most low-quality camera that I've ever seen. But I think it's pretty cool, and it's pretty cool to play around with because I know that the whole kind of digital camera trend is going on and with TikTok and stuff. So yeah, but I'm gonna do a little bit of a showcase with this thing, and let me know what you think. But that's a little bit of an overview of the camera. So let's get to filming with it. Okay, so this is a video test indoors with the Kodak Easyshare CD24 with my bedroom light on. You can see that the low light performance is not great. I'm holding the camera about 2 feet from my face right now. The stabilization is not great, so this is about as best as you can do. Again, there's no way of me being able to see, looking at it straightforward, there's no way for me to see like what is being captured on the screen right now, so I have to basically hold this thing towards the center and look into the lens and just hope that I am in frame. I actually don't know what is being captured in a frame. I don't know, do I hold it closer? Do I hold it farther away? I don't know, because there's no way to see what the screen is recording. And you can also, as I showed you in the overview, there's no video output for this thing, so you can't output this into like an external monitor and look at what you're recording at all. There's just no way of doing that. So it's very limiting in that aspect. But this is going to be the video performance indoors. I will also be performing one outdoors as well. Another fun little tidbit of trivia: the video that you're seeing right now, the only option for video that you get is 640 by 480. That was the standard resolution for 4:3 aspect ratio back in the day. It is not HD video, so it's not even 720p. But another fun little tidbit about this camera that I found out, there is no speaker on it. So I actually was able to play back the video, and you can actually see the frame rate. The frame rate's not too bad. It's pretty serviceable for, you know, if you okay with like 30 frames per second, which is what you're getting. Perfectly fine. But I actually can't even hear the audio on this thing. You have a little microphone right there, but there's no speaker on this thing, so I can't even hear what I sound like when I go to play it back. So what I have to do is essentially transfer the files from the SD card onto my computer and then listen to the video. That's all I can do. It's pretty bad. So, but you know, back in the day, this is what you had, so it was just a feature. But Pretty interesting. So that's pretty rough. But I'm going to do some more video tests with this thing, and we'll see what it can do. All right, so this is another video test, but this is outside, not inside, using the natural sunlight out here. I should have put sunglasses on. It's hot, so this is me outside with this camera testing the video performance. So like I said, it's going to be 640 by 480, and I've actually kind of noticed some. There are two kind of glaring issues with this camera. First of all, I mentioned it already, but it doesn't have a speaker. So if you want to play back video, you can play back video, but you can't listen to it. So you're not going to hear the audio, even though it does have a microphone on it. But there are two kind of glaring problems with this camera, and the first one is a low light performance. So essentially, right here, I'm standing. This is me, like, directly below the sunlight. So this is basically as good of lighting conditions as you're going to get. So that's really it. But doing this, and if you want to take a picture with this and you are not in ideal lighting conditions, you're going to have a bad time. Now, that can be mitigated with the flash. The flash will fix that. So if you're kind of taking a picture in the dark or in low light, you're probably going to want to use the flash. If you don't already have some form of supplementary lighting or extra lighting, you're going to want to use the flash on the camera. So that's one of the big problems. Now, the other big problem that this camera has is probably the most glaring one, is the slow shutter speed. So I'm going to include a couple pictures at the end of this video that you can look at, and you'll actually kind of notice it when I get to those pictures. But the shutter on this camera is so slow. Now you might be thinking, what's the problem with that? Well, the thing about a slow shutter is that theoretically, the slower the shutter is, the more light it's going to allow in the picture. So theoretically, that would help. Not necessarily the case. But the problem with a very slow shutter is that it makes the camera very, very sensitive to movement. So if you wanted to hold it like just one-handed like this and take a picture, you got to be very careful that you don't move it. It's very hard to do that because with one hand, if you're just holding it with one hand, you're going to have some natural movement there. I took a couple selfies, and you're actually going to see that they're very blurry because the camera gets moved while it's taking the picture. Because the shutter is so slow to react, it's very easy for you to get distortion and blurriness in that picture. So what ends up happening is if you want to take a selfie, you're going to have to do kind of like this, where you hold it with both hands and really focus it. And if you want to take other pictures, you're going to have to be very careful that you use both hands and keep it very still. So those are the two kind of glaring issues with this camera. I did want to get some pictures and some videos out in the sunlight just to test it, but that's going to kind of conclude my testing. But let me know what you think. I think it's kind of cool for a $5 pickup. It's probably one of the most simple cameras I've ever seen, but that's what it was for. It was for young people to take some pictures and put them on social media. And I mean, the camera itself, like, the quality is there. It's about what you'd expect. It reminds me of like 2010 Facebook pictures. That's basically what it is. Like iPhone 4 level pictures. That's about what the quality is. So, you know, it's there if that's what you're expecting. It's really good for that kind of, you know, early 2000s aesthetic, if that's what you're into. But just really make sure that you keep your expectations in check, is what I would say. So I'm going to basically conclude the video here, just kind of doing my little showcase. But what I'm going to do is take a few more extra pictures outside to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like with good lighting conditions. And yeah, I'll let you be the judge. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time. So I wanted to go ahead and apologize. That video was absolutely horrendous, but as I said in the video, if you were able to kind of make out what my words were because the audio was so distorted, there was no way to play that back because the camera does not actually have a speaker. All it has is the microphone. So the only way for me to hear what that sounds like is by putting the files on my computer and then listening to them when I play the video on VLC. So the video performance on this thing, I'm going to just say is garbage, pretty much. But I still think that if you want to capture that kind of old, kind of retro aesthetic, that early 2000s aesthetic, the actual photo taking on this camera is fine, and it actually looks pretty decent if that's what you're after, you know. But that's really about it. Video performance is going to be kind of a nothing burger, but it does take some cool looking photos, so that's really kind of where I wanted to leave it off. But I did not realize that the audio for that video was going to be so garbage, so forgive me. But yeah, that's going to conclude my review. See you next time.